And we finally return, after a much longer than I desired waiting period. I truly appreciate the patience of all of you Amaranth fans and fellow music connoisseurs, because this return has been a long time coming, but as many of you know, better late than never is not at all my favorite, but mainstay mantra at this point. But we come back into the graces of the Catalyst, what you and I introduced ourselves to in terms of a mutual fresh impression witness, as I call it. Or maybe some of you walked in having humored the numbers before me. That's very likely, considering I've really taken my time in coming back post the delay. We re-enter after humoring the first 4 numbers together that debuted as singles, and going in that order, Find Life, Damnation Flame, Insatiable, and Outer Dimensions. Whether you are a very familiarized Amaranth fan that maybe predates me, I know there are many of you, or perhaps a couple of you that walk in not having humored the name before. The Swedish metal world, which of course fits into the larger banner of European metal, which is absolutely gorgeous, but Sweden has some beautiful voices, and Amaranth is a triumphant name. Again, they've been around for quite an extensive time. The Catalyst is their, I forget how many albums we're into now, 7. It's their 7th debut and most recent. And a comeback to a fun journey that you and I started, again, a little over a year ago when I introduced myself to Amaranth. For the single, technically PvP, and then a couple pieces from Manifest. And as I promised you, we have a future with this group. Outside of the Catalyst, I have promised you a Manifest tour, and we're going to be taking that very soon post the Catalyst, as this is very much our coming back into the graces of one another and company to the Amaranth name. But I will also tell you, just as a prelude, I won't be definitive yet, some of you can probably guess, but Amaranth, if you're an Amaranth fan, you will be blessed by the future here, because we're going to be spending a good amount of time with this group. Catch my drift? Anyway, we're going to start short, and we have 8 more pieces to go as you and I take that full tour for the Catalyst together, as I intended to some time ago. So how we're going to go about this is this first entrance, as you can see by the title, is going to highlight a selection of 3 numbers, and the subsequent videos, I think I've organized it into a 3-part structure with the 2 parts succeeding this, that will highlight the remaining 5. But I chose to pack these all together because they are the ones that receive visualizers, and that's always fun of Amaranth. There's a really fun energy that comes through that, and beautifully complements such exemplary music, again, of a heavy, or unless otherwise directed voice, with beautiful vocals, of course. And this is true for the history of Amaranth, in case I'm not mentioning any of our members in previous orientations of the group. I'm not trying to throw shade. All entries of Amaranth have been quite beautiful. As I said, you can probably see some of my hints here that I might be familiarized to their preceding catalog. And I might have taken that window to some degree on my own and paused intentionally, and I'll keep mum as to why. I don't want to spoil it yet, but as I said, if you're an Amaranth fan, or a developing Amaranth fan, you will be rewarded with our future. That's going to develop in the next couple of months. I'm very excited for it. But let's re-enter together into the voice of Amaranth of present day, with the beautiful vocal trio that is Elise Reed, of course, Nils Molin, who I love, one of my favorite metal singers, and their newcomer, Mike, I think I'm pronouncing the last name right, Ceylin, who I've been rooting for the beginning, since Damnation Flame, since he was announced to be filling the shoes of GG6, who was also great, the previous Unclean Screamer. But Mike, I love this guy, who I was introduced to. I know he's been in a couple other entries, like Engel, Degraded, Paralydium, I think it's Paralydium. Anyway, and we'll look at those as well at some other date, but I was introduced for The Day We Left Earth, and I've been rooting this guy on ever since, and I've not been disappointed at all, with the 2 numbers we've heard from him so far, those being Insatiable and Damnation Flame, again, in opposite order of how they debuted. So we're going to walk back into this present day world of Amaranth and go in order of debut. So we're going to begin with Revision, which I'll begin in seconds, but I will proceed this video with, because I did see for how long I've taken, the clips were circulating around social media, and I do have to ask, who in the Amaranth video crew or band happens to be an Old Republic game fan? Because the particular robot that was teased at the end of Outer Dimensions as a cliffhanger ending happens to be wearing the face mask of Darth Nox. I don't know if this is just a funny coincidence. Maybe there's a larger cultural aspect to that mask, or maybe it's familiarized in different media channels and presentations I'm not familiarized to, but it's just a really funny coincidence. I'm like, that character walked out of the game. And, hey, the Old Republic game, I did start playing it a number of years ago. I never finished because I just waited too long, but I have seen the story. And as it's going today, it obviously bears a bit of a cultural entertainment sphere impact. So it's funny to see certain media channels cross paths, even if it's maybe for a different reason that I'm not familiarized to. If you are, feel free to chime in. I just find it really funny. I'm like, Darth Nox is in an Amaranth video. This character I'm specifying, by the way, if you want to cite it yourself, and I love the story. It's from the Sith Inquisition storyline. I love it. But revision, let's make our comeback. First of 3 we're going to humor today in this video, and more to come. But the catalyst, it's great to come back and to enjoy Amaranth with you in present form. Again, all in fresh impression witness. I've not heard these numbers before, save for maybe some light social media clips. Oh, we're in for something special. Okay, I'm getting a bit of like an electric drift, and that's kind of, the way they've gone past numbers too, but there's that technological angle. This is much more explicit, I think.
People said they would usher in a new era of peace and prosperity.
I like the warble effects to it, and I like the dystopian sci-fi war direction. I can definitely see a bit of a contemporary placement, just in the language. It's very, 1984 reminiscent.
Out of the funeral pyre of the old world rose the vast remaining cities, and humanity was reduced to expendable slaves.
It's a beautifully designed CGI world, I will point that out. It's like a mini-movie. That's funny. That's the key I remember from the clip. I'm like, we're starting differently. Probably a couple octaves lower, but it's designed the same. Oh, I love it. Cupid's favorite with me right now on this one. It fits beautifully into the bass work with, again, that technological touch. I love it, the transitions to design, but this one, everybody gets a very specific chapter. More paced vocals, too. Yeah, I love this vocal touch. Yeah, it's definitely got a deliberate contemporary edge. Very inspirational too. It is interesting paired again to the concept direction. I love it. Like I've been saying, Mike's perfect for this role. And not say we're trying to overshadow GG6, but again, if you're familiarized to how his vocals are designed in the numbers, Mike can perfectly master those traits on his own. With his own style, it's great. Fantastic dimension on the song, exclusively by the vocals. I love it. It's a really fun bop. I like that one. Key pick's great, energy's great. I love the bass work, the pace. Is it another type of cliffhanger? That's funny. Again, that was the first video. The Catalyst is next, and we'll get to that in a couple seconds. But I like that song. It's beautifully realized. And like I said, that mask is right out of the game. Again, I don't know if there's a larger story behind it. It's just funny to me how entertainment paths collide. But you do get distracted as you listen to this piece by a beautiful bop of a number, as I said. Beautifully introduced, again, very cinematic, and definitely pays homage based on its phrasing to 1984. If it's not explicitly transcribed from the book, I think slavery is freedom. I know war is peace, freedom is slavery. What was the other one they said? Not love the machine. Oh, that could fit in. Obedience is strength. That might be I forget. It's been a while since I read 1984, but it's a great piece that we hope doesn't become reality, and yet in our day and age it seems to be. But for the sake of this video, maybe again there's a bit of a contemporary energy to this. I can certainly see in direction of the lyrics, though again this is my first orientation, but it definitely plays to a fictional, futuristic, dystopian angle. But it's just got such a great tune to it. I love how it's introduced. The vocal transition specifically and how strict each line is, I love how the members of this group interchange. And it's core to Amaranth in terms of other number designs that is quite in complement in the past, that one initiates and then it usually might jump into the unclean, the other clean comes in. So Amaranth has always had a bit of a trio construction, minus the time that GG6 when he departed from Amaranth post-Manifest, and then they put out the Find Life single, that was just between Nils and Elise, but many of their numbers might not necessarily have the unclean presentation. This has been true again since the beginning, that there are certain numbers that drift off from that. It's usually the harder pieces, maybe some of the softer ones that will bring in that voice, like I think in the beginning of their original debut album, Amaranthine, the unclean presence was rather limited, but it still was there. But there have been, again, other numbers that you can as well witness on Manifest or The Catalyst, like Find Life or Outer Dimensions, that drop the unclean, and it's just more of a clean balance between Elise and, at the time, it would have been, in the early days, Jake E. or now Nils. And whoever's in that role is just great. I love, though, the vocal interplay of Amaranth. It's always been so special to listen to them, and again, that trio presence. And I can't put into words how much I love, and hey, Jakey's great, but I just love Nils. I love his voice. And him and Elise are a beautiful compliment. And I won't go too far with that point because the last number is really going to dive into that particular angle, but it's a great number, and that end climb on Elise, that's also very familiar. It's sort of that crescendo effect, but it captures your attention as the song wraps up quite nicely. On that technological angle, it does feel a bit more progressive, what I call electronic metal, and it isn't necessarily a particular subgenre, and it's one I'm more so terming, where I've seen it be, let's say by example, speaking of Sweden, compliment here, Metalite. They're defined, at least by some circles, as melodic power metal. I call them melodic power electronic. Because, I mean, I see that technological angle playing with a number of different groups who either sell them or as a core part of their voice. And Amaranth kind of spreads it around, but, I mean, this one's very deliberate. I love how it's meshed into the particular pace. It really adds a nice layer, where I wonder who that who's doing the voice on it, but it's really nice because how subdued it is, but it plays well into the way the song is transcribed for our ears. I love it. Our fifth song, now going into the sixth, the title piece, and the one that, based on the little clip I've seen, I don't know if it was on social media, or I think I clicked on it on accident, but it's right in the introduction. Though again, the large body of this tune, I'd say about maybe 95% of it, 97, I haven't listened to yet. We're enjoying that all together on a fresh experience. Maybe you as well. But, ooh, speaking of Nils, just you wait. Again, I love this guy. And the Catalyst, he just shines. As well as the group, but oh, we're getting to it. It begins differently than I thought it would, based on what I know. Like Revision, interesting how we follow up. Reminds me a lot of Digital World, I think. I think that's the name of the number. Not one of our earliest entrances, but in terms of era, yes. Oh, here we go. I love it. See, I've said from the beginning, Mike is perfect. I love how he begins the number. Here we go. Okay, that's all I know. The rest of this is flash. His vocals are gorgeous. Any pitch. I was going to save this particular line for the last song from what I know of it. I'll come back to what I was saying in a minute. Man, this song's vocals are rich. See, what I was gonna say, it's so cool with any era of Amaranth, the vocals fold into one another on the clean. Even the unclean too, but it's really on that clean. And I noticed it best on Nils and Elise. Each voice just melts. It's great. But the points of isolation to it is beautiful. If you can't tell with how I'm feeling right now. We'll advance with this verse. God, he's perfect. I'm anticipating it's going to shift back on how we were introduced, or maybe not. Oh, lightly. To put it short in terms of the vocals, I know I'm fawning all over Nils right now, but I will also say again to Mike's credit, I've said from the beginning, he's perfect. The way that he emulates GG6, again, I'm not saying he's necessarily trying to, but it just comes off so nicely to me as somebody who loves the voice of Amaranth of eras past of what I know, to hear a reminiscence of that with a different direction in terms of, well, Henrique, or GG6, he didn't necessarily, from what I remember, do as much of a melodic scream. Mike does. This was first introduced to me, I'm trying to remember if it played around with, again, like I said, how I was introduced the day we left Earth, and it's not ringing a bell at the moment, though it might have been presented there. I think of Damnation Flame on the bridge. I'm like, you just couldn't pick anybody better. He's an absolutely stellar fit to fill in the shoes of GG6 and to give his own voice, because he's taking what GG6 did very well, the fast vocals, and the depth on the unclean, and those reaches, too, where warranted. I love how his voice is controlled here, too, in the verses. It starts quieter, more subtle, and then it advances as soon as that clean switch hits, and those vocals depart. Oh, man. And again, as well, you know, the cut sections in the middle of a song of what we've seen before with Damnation Flame or Insatiable, namely, and Revision as well. And I believe that's true for the next number we're getting to as well, Interference. But I'm proud to say, and this isn't always the case, most of these talents I walk into in terms of European origin, I don't know. Or I'm finding out through your recommendations or my own wishes to pursue. But I knew about Mike in advance, and the minute he was announced, I'm like, okay, this is going to be interesting. And then witnessing him in application of Amaranth's voice, it has been an absolute pleasure. I could not think of anybody better. And there's many talented unclean screamers, but to fit the voice of Amaranth of what we know and what can evolve, it's just so beautiful they decided to pick him. It fits because he's Swedish, I believe, if I read that correctly. I think he's from Stockholm, or he's based there, but I love the fact that they brought him into Amaranth to complement the beautiful vocals of Nils and Elise. Nils' rises on that high B, and oh my gosh, I love it whenever he does that. And lower pitches are fine too. I've always said this about Nils. I just love the fact that he sort of brings back this retro, older rock and roll feel, and metal to be fair as well, but I mostly see it again in an older rock voice of what I know from like maybe late 90s, or light 90s concentration is what I meant to say, but I'd say for the most part from what I grew up with, 2000s to 2010 range. For some reason, I just get that dart back in nostalgia for me. Just even when I look at him, the hair. It's his presence as a singer. And in reference to those vocal ascents that are beautifully demonstrated here, getting to that higher B still, or going into the lower melodic, it's fantastic. His voice blends perfectly with directions of any scores that I've heard, whether it be from Amaranth, Dynasty, or the light bit of what I know from New Horizon. They're coming as well at some time in the future, and I cannot wait to get to them. If you've even heard a little bit of King of Kings when that sample was rolling, oh my gosh. Anyway, but Nils is an absolute pleasure to listen to, but I just love the fact of his voice. There's this explicit masculine tone, but is so well embodied in the way that he sings, and even with the pitch climbs or wherever his vocals choose to go, but namely in those sections, it's never shed. His voice is so individualistic and defined to me, alongside many other, again, metal and rock favorites of, masculine vocal articulation, but I've never once forgotten about Nils. One of my favorites, ever since I was first introduced to him via Afterlife of Ad Infinitum from the Chapter 2 album. I have such fond memories. And to expand that with new songs is fantastic. With Amaranth, the Catalyst, that's an immediate set pick for me. I mean, it makes sense. It's the title number of your album, but oh my gosh, that is going to be a fun crowd pleaser, I think. And Elise's voice as well. It's quite a nice pattern we have, at least with the two numbers we've witnessed today, with that vocal climb from her at the end that just, again, caps that reach of the number. I think it ends well, too. It's a very strict ending. I thought I'd go back into the earlier technological introduction of a number, but that's fine. It's rather limited, but I think it fits in terms of how it's designed and how it sounds. It's another great song. I love its dimension, though. It's got a beautiful, beautiful play. And it's introduced well, too, again, with the cinematic direction. I wonder if that was specific to just the video or if it is in the album. I'll find out later when I go back and re-listen to this. Oh, and by the way, Mike, introducing the number with his screams. Big fan. Anyway, second number of 3. Before we continue wandering on into the remainder of the album, but for now, in terms of what we see visualizers. And a bit different here. We have a live number. And in fact, this video came out very recently, so I'm a little more on the ball with this one, which admittedly did fast-track our return, I'll be honest. It was mostly interference, and my desires to go back into those earlier numbers from a little bit I knew, and to enjoy them in full. It's been so great. So, interference. And what I've heard from many fans is apparently not only a great number, but one that they were hoping, at least when the teasers were being put out, that I think is between this and Liberated, but interference was a top suggestion, and it seems like a lot of fans got their wish. And I'll find out why. I believe walking in that it would be great, but let's find out together. I already like the bass direction. Steady verses. I love the framing here. Interception, always looking for a high ground. Different tones of this one, but the softer raspiness. I like that. Kinda. Speaking of Digital World, it's almost like Drop Dead Cynical from some of the live performances I've seen. It's very similar with her. I might know this little bit from, I think it's later in the song, but this is the clip I put out on Instagram, which I had on a loop. Here we go with the blends. Oh, just wait, it gets better. Thank you for returning to this. I love it. love this guy. I was gonna say, you can either do a higher climb or rest there. It's fine. I think it's one of the lowest pitches I've heard Nils go so far. Maybe not. Dying to see some close approximations, but that is beautiful. And he's leading this chorus. Great. See, like I said, this trade-off, I love it. I love how that chorus key spins. Kind of going down a little bit. Like the lower G here. I love it. Yes, this is the clip I had for a loop. Should be easy to see why. And here we go, my favorite moment too. Speaking of vocal blends. I know there's a lot to absorb there, but do you notice it? There's no explicit point that you can hear because there's so many layers of the song coming in. Bass, heavy synth, unclean, and and of course the melodic key where the pitch is defined, but Elise and Nils, again, like I've been saying with the case of the Catalyst and other cases as well, their voices are such a beautiful complement to one another. The way that they feed here, and I think Nils is jumping around between a G to a B flat territory. I think his vocals kind of end towards the end of or before Elise jumps in, it's darting between the A and B flat. But I can't tell where the voices switch because they're so beautifully in line. The pitches are very well married. Now, again, their voices are distinct. I mean, Elise you can clearly hear when she comes in, but you can't. The range is explicit, but the specific action point of where each vocalist switches dominance and role, and I believe they continue singing. No, Nils I think drops a bit lower, and Elise maintains the vocals at the high C. Although I believe they're at the same key, but still, each voice is individualistic. I know it's just a couple seconds in the end bit of the song, but I can't get over how good it is. And so I walk into Interference in particular, though, again, the Catalyst, I looked on with aspirational eyes generally, and each of the 3 pieces we've listened to so far has been quite great, and it's just the start back to our Amaranth journey. How wonderful, which there's, as I teased, much more to come, but Interference in particular, yes, as I said, this particular Instagram video that the last chorus it was cut out of, I had that for a loop all morning because I'm like, I gotta go to work, but the minute I get back, we're listening to this one because I can't wait any longer, and I want to return into the Catalyst. I want to come back to Amaranth. It's just beautiful. So there's this ecstatic aura that's been surrounding this number just based on the last little bit. And every layer to it's fine. I think the way it's introduced, again, a bit of a softer tone that immediately kicks into that bass riff. I love it. It's a strict frame, very explicit, and it continues to rebound. Usually when the choruses drop off, speaking of the choruses, transitioning the vocal dominance, I love that. Whoever it is, Elise leading or Nils, I love this guy. I can't stop saying it, and his voice is so good here on the lower pitch. I love it. Again, one of my particular metal male favorites, and there's plenty of vocalists, male or female, to speak of in terms of kings and queens within the metal sphere, but oh my gosh, Nils is like top tier for me. I just love him. And Mike too. His uncleans are great here. I love seeing that rapid pace kick back in that I know very well from the day we left Earth, and that again, speaking of GG6, puts him very much in adjacent line. That it feels like eras, while displayed differently, come together very well. I love it. 7 pieces into the album so far, 5 more to go, and our return to the Catalyst is so great. I love it. And we end on a very strong number. All 3 great, but, well, actually, all 3 are standouts in their own ways. I really like Interference, though. It's just that end bit. I know that I'll be rewinding back to that over and over and over, just a little couple of split seconds, because it's just so good. And maybe I'll be able to find out for myself beyond just one viewing, or listen to it, where that transition point is. But I can't hear it. I can hear the range of action, but I can't hear the specific point. It's fantastic. It's just, again, like I said, Elise and Nils, their voices melt just so perfectly. I love it. You can see why I love Amaranth, any of you new listeners to them. And if you are of that perspective, you, like I said, for the majority of Amaranth fans here who know their name and have been a frequenter of their songs longer than I have. Though again, I hope this is an open platform for anybody, and I hope you enjoy our time together as we entertain such a good group with beautiful new songs. You are really going to like the adventures ahead in the coming months. If you like Amaranth, you will be blessed here, I can tell you that. As will I. Just being able to share my love for these groups and to enjoy so many beautiful voices within the metal world with you, it's fantastic. And Amaranth, upstanding name. Very well known, and if you're new to them, those 3 pieces, you can absolutely see why. With more to come shortly, as we continue on for the Catalyst, and it's beautiful to return back. Finally, we return to the Amaranth world on a really high note. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.